episode 2, bro.
Appreciate you
It's
for
good to
having
have
me,
you.
man.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Starting point is, something we've been working on for a little bit. Trying to connect with artists like yourself, seeing like, your earliest influence, how you got into what you're doing. Shout out to Adapted Studios for having us here today.
Fire.
And it's a real pleasure to have you, bro. I wanted to interview you after the conversation we had, I think in like December. You had told me you were working on a tape, you just put out Never and Now.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I remember like, back when we were in school and whatnot, like we had connected, I think at like several events on campus.
Yeah, bro. We went to Sankofa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite the time, and it was crazy, just like it being like full circle. But, bro, I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely, bro. I mean, you're making original music. You're making content that's true to you. Like, going to your performance even last week, I mean, I could just hear like your writing is very thoughtful. I'm wondering where does that come from? Is that like from your parents? Is that just kind of how you've always been into literature?
Yeah,
Poetry.
I think early on I had a literary knack, but I wasn't aware of it. And then there were like other things that started to happen that allowed me to develop that. So for example, as early as grade school, you could recall, or I could recall going to like the scholastic fairs, you know what I mean, in the library, and like buying books, or even actively like checking books out from the library. Like, it was just like a source of information for me. Like,
So was it like novels, like fiction stories, or were you more
yeah,
into
so it was a bit of all of that. Like the Blueford High books, they had like Blood is Thicker, like Bully. Like it was more like, I felt when you're like discovering who you are in an inner city, like those books were like, oh, Trey met Davon. Davon decided to bring a gun to the park, but Trey, you know what I mean? And it's
yeah.
kind of like, oh,
Be
this is
more
how
like him.
this story
Yeah.
played out. Outside of that, because I actually got skipped like early on too. I was really like intrigued with Muhammad Ali. Like he was my favorite athlete growing up. And so I read a lot of like how he transitioned from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, and yeah, I was just enthralled. So that's where I say it started to like began. Like that was, sort of the starting point. But it continued to evolve like the older I got. And it was never like, I don't think starting off a creative thing. It was more so just like, again, I excelled in like school, and like reading was something that I was
Ace in the
inspired
spelling
by.
test.
Bro, spelling bees,
Yeah.
shit like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it was like, that's where it started. But music probably followed soon after, but it was never like a clear jump. Like, oh yeah, I'm reading a lot. Now I'm like writing music. It was like two things that I just appreciated separately.
Gradual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think what helped is like, me and my mom would do like word searches together and like crossword puzzles like competitively, you know what I mean? Or if I like get in trouble, immediately that shit happened like a lot growing up, because I was just a badass kid.
Yeah, I mean that'll shape you in ways, man. You got stories to tell.
Yeah.
And then when you're in trouble, you just spend all that time reflecting too.
But Pete, I had to reflect because I had to write essays. So it's like, why did you do what you did? Write me a 5-page essay front and back. Mind you, I'm in elementary. So by the time I got to like high school, it was like, this is nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just the sort of like culture of like growing up in the house. And then, yeah, it just sort of evolved from there. We were freestyling for fun. I think the first beat I ever freestyled to was like Rubber Band Man by T.I.
Oh, classic.
Yeah.
I respect that. So I mean, like, definitely over time, because what I see in artists is like, what typically happens, like they amass like a collection of influences.
Yeah.
It takes time for it to like the foundation gets set. They don't even realize it. It's like that the shadow work. Like it's happening, you're unconscious about it.
Yeah.
It builds up until you can recognize it, and then like you have a. It normally starts off with the admiration, right? It's like, oh, I love reading, I love paintings. I'm really into poetry. I have a favorite, writer, author, favorite subject, and I feel like your subject matter, like now that you're, you've been making music for how long now?
Bro, for a minute, like, I think, shit, maybe like, bro, like I started like freestyling as early as 8, so I can't really like
Put it down.
you know what I mean? Because it was like I was doing something, and then it was like I learned to produce when I was 14. So I guess actively maybe about a decade, but I think just recently, within the past like 2 to 3 years, really like found my voice and discovered like, okay, this is what I do.
Okay, bet. So like when it comes to music, like who are some of your key influences as far as like when you first started listening to rap or music in general? Like,
Oh,
were there
bro.
like certain artists, like if you had to give like a top 3, top 4 of like artists that really like, kind of showed you like how to happen the game?
Facts. Fair warning, I'm an anecdotal type of person, so I kind of like give stories around
That's
it.
the perfect
I
place
could
for it.
definitely give you like a clear answer, like, yo, these are my top 4. But early on, it's sort of like an evolution, you know what I mean? Like an amalgamation of like a bunch of shit. The earliest records that I can remember were The College Dropout, and that was like regularly played. And the thing is, like early on, you never knew, at least for me, it wasn't like, oh, this just released. It was just like suddenly I wake up and it's playing in my house. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like timeless. Like I never knew when.
It's kind of like embedded into your lifestyle, just like that.
Yeah, it was just like, I didn't know. I wasn't at the store buying CDs. It was just like, oh, my mom is playing this, so now we're listening to it. Erykah Badu also had a live record for Baduism. I'd like know that shit like front to back. And then of course like a bunch of 90s R&B early on, which I never, admittedly, like I never fell in love with, but it's just all a part of the culture. So when I got my first like Walkman and whatnot, I'm like unzipping these like big cases of CDs and just going through and like seeing what I could take without my mom like knowing, right? And like, so my mom was like heavy into R&B, neo-soul, not much rap. And if it was rap, it was like 90s like gangster rap. But then my pops was like, I guess you could call him more of a hip hop purist.
Okay.
So it was like, I started to recognize like, okay, when I'm at the house, it's like, when I'm in my mom's crib, it's like, okay, they're listening to like Yin Yang Twins or like whatever is hot on the radio. But then when I'm at my pop's crib, it's like, nah, that ain't real music. That was just his like energy. And it was like, yeah, we love DMX, we love Pac here, we love Biggie, Eminem, like, you know what I mean? Like more rap. So
The lyrical side.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was like, yo, I want to impress like my pops. And so he got me my first Walkman, and I stole this CD, which was like a mixtape. It had like a bunch of Eminem, Biggie, and Pac. And so the thing was, I started to remember these songs, brought it back home to my mom's house. And so I'm in my room. She'll walk by and it's like, what are you listening to? And it's like, oh yeah, I'm listening to this like Eminem. It's like, give me the CD.
Confiscated.
So Kanye
Done.
was like he
happy
was like,
medium.
yeah, between like both households, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, we respect him here and we respect him here. It's like not raunchy. It's just like, you know what I mean? So I say yay for sure. And then my uncle is also a musician. He has the illest like collection of like vinyls and CDs. And when I say, I'm talking like thousands. So I would like go to his home. He has like it full of instruments. And I think early on it was like more like neo soul and R&B with my mom, rap with my dad, and with my uncle, he made neo soul music, but he also played instruments. So I would see like John Coltrane, like, images of him in the house with like African masks and like just like Black Jesus in the house.
Yeah.
He had like upright pianos, and then you have Miles Davis and just a bunch of I guess more like earlier music, like before like rap. So I started to dive into that even when I couldn't understand it because I wanted to understand it, right?
I mean, there's a lot of layers to that music too. I mean, you could glean so much, I guess, influence from their music. It's the surface level, just the musicality of it is beautiful, but then like the stories they tell, what they're trying to convey.
And what I noticed is with like jazz and even these like other like genres, whether it's like just early like soul, like Etta James, right? It's like, oh, I recognize this from like, oh, Kanye is like taking this music and
Flipping it.
yeah, turning it into like something new, something like fresh and accessible. So yeah, that was like, it's a well-developed like palette of things. And then what happened is with my uncle, like I said, he had like thousands of CDs. Whereas my dad, it was like more like, okay, these are the 5 people we're listening to. Like my uncle, it was like Naughty by Nature, Salt and Pepper. You got Outkast, Organized Noise. Like
So
all
you
of
were
those
steeped
people.
in music. You were listening to everything. You were kind
Bro,
of all around.
Yeah. Yeah, and then from there, it was just like, okay, this is my thing. And I never like noticed it. I talk to like my childhood homies and he'll tell me like, yeah, bro, you still a fan of Tupac? And I'm like, damn, I was like a really big fan of Pac. Pulling up like on the school bus, like Walkman in hand, and like snuck out my mom's like CD or whatever CDs I stole, and I'm just like flipping through and like,
You got
listening to
coat.
music.
Come on, bro.
Exactly. So I started to develop like my own like taste. I recognized like Jay-Z was at the top, even when I couldn't understand like, what is this? You know what I mean? It was like, I want to understand that. So fast forward, I would say, to circle it back around to like your original question, I would say Jay-Z, he's in no particular order, Jay-Z, Kanye, I would say Tribe Called Quest. Just for me personally, I'm not gonna like rate them based off of like.
No, that's a whole different. That'll take a whole other different conversation.
And I would say maybe Black Star, Mos Def and Talib.
But yeah.
But yeah, bro, I could do this shit all day. Like, favorite producers, favorite songwriters.
Mos Def is actually my favorite rapper. So I'm glad you said that. Like,
he's incredible.
I had the opportunity to see him, I think 2 years ago at the Congress when they were still open.
How was that?
Exactly what you think it would be. This dude was like ethereal, bro. Like not even a figment of my imagination. This dude, like, guy's up there and
yeah, he's something special.
He's a super special guy, bro. Like, but yeah, Mos is I love Mos heavy. Definitely. When I first started listening to music, like, I feel like we all tried our hand, in the game. So it's like I listened to Mos, and I was like, oof, I have to try this now.
Bro, I still want to rap like Mos Def.
Yeah.
To this day, I want to rap like him and dress like him.
So okay, so like you told me about your influences. So like, what about inspiration? Like I feel like those are two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah, but definitely two different things. Because I mean, I'm inspired by like my peers, but I'm not influenced. Like they don't influence like the sound of my music. So I would just say my contemporaries, like anybody who's in the city doing something. Also, it's even bigger than music. I'm a big fan of theater and fucking film in general.
Good. Yeah.
Going to DePaul, like some of the first people I met on campus were from TTS, so the theater school.
Okay. Right.
And same shit with like me trying to like understand Jay-Z. Like early on, we would go on like field trips and see like Shakespearean plays and shit, and be like, I don't understand what the fuck this is like.
Trying to convey or
right, but it's like, yeah, this makes sense. You know what I mean? Just to be as sophisticated as like the teachers and whatnot.
Nod your head.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, for sure. I love Shakespeare, but
he had bars, man.
But
early on William.
No, he's hard.
Yeah.
No, he's hard.
Those sonnets goes crazy.
Yeah, I was watching The Tragedy of Macbeth. I just watched that like twice. Like that's if I like something, like I kind of obsess over it for a little bit. And
And are you like trying to pull inspiration from those things, or do you
no,
just kind of like?
1,000%.
Okay.
Because it's just like you can find inspiration anywhere. I get inspiration from traveling. I get inspiration from, talking to people. You know what I'm saying? It's like I've got like 700 notes in my phone. It's like I might think of something, like looking out the window, and it would be like boom, boom, boom. I think just try to pull from real life experiences because it's like that's what's most relatable. But yeah, it's you can find inspiration.
Yeah.
From.
So you've been working on music for a while. You've been writing. You kind of just like maybe not even consciously started writing rap. So you just kind of were into it. You had some pen on the paper.
Yeah.
But when did you like I guess start to really work on it as a craft? When you're like, okay, now I'm trying to figure out how I do this. What's my sound? What am I trying to write about? What's my subject matter?
I think when I got to high school, just being in class, I realized like I could do something that other people that didn't come easy to other people. So like you'll have an assignment or something. It's like write a poem, and I'm done with the poem, and I'm seeing like everyone else's.
Taking time.
And I'm like, oh shit! Like I thought we could all do this.
So what's your creative process like? Like that's kind of interesting to me. I mean, you take inspiration, you put them into a, like a matrix, I guess, and you're looking at everything that inspires you. How do you distill those inspirations into like a song? Like, does it come to you like in a revelatory kind of way? It's like, eureka, I got a song idea, or is it more so like I want to write a song about, resilience, or I want to write a song about, like hard times or triumph and stuff like. How does it kind of? I feel like for me when I'm thinking about artists, like it's just what I do because I see like a painting or I listen to a song or like I see a sculpture and I'm like, okay, like this is dope, like this is, but like, how did this come to be? Like, what was like the initial, like what was the blueprint of this man's or this woman's, initial like conception of this idea? Like, because I mean, I feel like it either comes to you as like a thought where it's like, oh, that would be dope to do. I should do that. Or it's more so like you're kind of in like deliberation. And you're like, I want to make something that conveys this.
Yeah.
Like what side of the coin are you on there?
It's a mixture of both. Sometimes I have to force myself to like speak about certain things, so it becomes more like calculated, especially when it comes to something like vulnerability. So it's like, okay, I have to actively force myself to like step into this space or step outside of my comfort zone. Other than that, I feel like really it comes from a space of just wanting to express how I feel. And I think recently I've arrived to a place where I don't feel selfish or like, feel like why should I communicate these things? Because it's like, I think early on it was like a struggle of I can rap well, but everybody can rap well. Everyone is talented. You know what I mean? Like growing up, it's not like I'm special. I honestly feel like we're all just like
level playing field.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, what is that thing that is going to make people want to listen to me? And I think I've arrived to a space where it's like, yeah, I'm creating as a means of like expression, but it's also in service to something that's like more than just me.
Bigger than
what I'm
you,
saying?
Yeah.
So when I say like, especially expressing something like vulnerability, it's like, I can have these conversations and I'm like thankful and blessed to have like good people around me. Like I have like mentors and whatnot and people who can like see things from the outside and give me like a different perspective. So like I wrote a very vulnerable song and I sent it to a friend. And it wasn't even very vulnerable. It was just some stuff that like I feel seen. And I'm like, damn, I don't want to feel seen.
I see you, yeah.
But who else doesn't want to feel seen?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't want to feel seen.
Right.
And he was like, he reminded me, he's like, yo, what did we say? 2022 is going to be about risks. You know what I mean? Like, do that. It may help someone else. And although that's not my like initial thought, like going in, like I don't feel like self-righteous creating this stuff. I realize it's all a part of human expression, and that alone is, you know, the why or the importance. So I don't feel like, you know, I'm just participating in this thing that we're all participating in. It's not like I'm the voice or like the savior or anything. Like what I have to say is not more important than anybody, but it's like,
You're gonna take the time to say it.
yeah, and if you appreciate it, you'll appreciate it. You know what I mean? So,
You know, it's funny because that's kind of like the reason that we go by adjective, essentially. It's like description is everything. It's like, how are you going to describe it? Are you going to take the time to articulate what we're all thinking, what we're all trying to figure out, what is not being spoken about?
yeah.
And then people like, you know, let's take something like, it could be anything, and it's like, well, if you're going to explain it badly, you're going to cause more issues. It's going to cause more segmentation, more rifts. You have to really take the time to like craft a carefully crafted message, essentially. Like when you're trying to do anything, it could be music, right? It could be fashion. Like, what are you trying to convey as an artist? If you're going to take that title, you're going to take that responsibility. Because yeah, like,
It is a responsibility.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
And
what
I
it comes
think
down to.
it's bigger than, because I used to think like, I guess being an artist was like this like suit you put on. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is just my identity now, but it's not, bro. It's like, who are you as a person? You know what I mean? Like, I'm, you know, a brother, I'm a nephew, I'm a son. You know what I mean? So, I think becoming a better person allowed me to become a better artist, because there isn't like any separation. You know what I mean? So yeah, just touching on that responsibility, like, and it doesn't even have to be deep. Sometimes I might just want to like have some like fun. You know what I'm saying? But there is definitely like responsibility. I have like younger siblings or something. Whether it's like not a responsibility in the sense like you have to do this, but like I feel responsible if it's like saying something that's gonna inspire them, or like responsible to show them like, hey, I'm a freelance artist, you can do this as well. You know what I mean? Like, just put out something good. You know what I mean? Whether that's like something that's thought provoking or something that just takes your mind off of, you know, whatever the case is.
And I think like that's true like in the grand, like the general scheme of making art. It's true. It's true. Like, what are you trying to convey? This is the outcome of like your influence, your expression. But let's talk about like what you are really trying to convey. Because I feel like when I hear your bars, like I feel like you're honing in on something that I can't really put a finger on it, but you know, there's an element of like, I don't want to say like spirituality, but like there's definitely like this.
It's a fantasy for sure.
Well, you went to Egypt, you went to Cairo. Like, how did that impact like some of your writing? I guess because I feel like that must have been an interesting time as far as.
Yeah,
you know.
no, you don't even know the half of it.
I can't imagine.
Definitely interesting. I think whenever I travel, Nas has his line. He's like, he turns his phone off. He's like, the vagabond, I gallop across the equator or something like that. I'm like, yeah, bro, that's how I feel. Like, I just like love traveling to different places and meeting different people, and not in like, yo, I'm here to consume. It's like, you know, America is so like, take. Like, I'm there to like gain experiences, you know what I mean? And every time I'm like in a space, it's like, yo, what would my life be like if I lived here? You know what I mean? And so specifically for Cairo.
And even in any time period, because I feel like your music kind of transcends like the current to the past. Like, I feel like you have a lot of references. Like, your writing style is very dense.
Damn, thanks.
It's a dense like writing style. Like, there's a lot to unpack. Like, you know, between stanzas, between bars.
Yeah. Word.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I wish more of the music that you performed last week was out already.
It's gonna be out for sure. The project is gonna come out, but specifically what I want to convey in the music is just whatever I feel. And like I said, I pull from real life experiences, so I try to, you know, just live life so that I can actually like talk about some shit and hope that it it gets people to react in some type of way. Whether it's like, yo, turn that shit off. Or whether it's like,
Or
yo,
turn it
turn
up.
that shit up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, I want you to feel something. You know what I mean? Especially now, because like, we just like go on to like the next.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about the album? Like at like a, you know, a step back view, like, you know, overview. Like what can you tell us about the tape? What's the vibe?
So the tape,
Where you taking us, bro?
man, first off, this will be a full-length project, and I haven't released that yet. And I've released music in the past. I feel like this is my best. Up to this point, like I'm like, you know, okay, this is the shit that represents me. So yeah, bro, it's called Above All, and I think what I've been realizing lately is like, damn, what's like for me like my legacy, and where do my values lie? Like above all, above everything else, like what's the most important thing to me? You know what I mean? I think especially being in America and you get to experience this like traveling outside the country, and I was gonna touch on that earlier about going to Cairo, like just seeing like what would life be like if I lived somewhere else. And I realized
It opens up your perspective.
yeah, and I'm like, damn, I have so much to be thankful for. You know what I mean? Especially being here. And granted, there's a lot of like room for improvement. Don't get me wrong.
100.
But you know, you see like the disparities, and you also see like, hey, these people are happy.
Right. I was
You know
gonna
what I'm
touch.
saying?
Yeah, because
Right? And like being here, it's like, you know,
you don't
somebody
really need that much. It's like you also
you
see
don't.
like
You don't.
like I could
And so that's
be
the
as fulfilled with
yeah. And so above
much
all, it's like
less.
these are the things like, you know, there was this prayer that my mom wrote, and she was like, above all, never let them be without. And so that was sort of like the beginning of that. And I started to think like, damn, you know, so you pray, right, to like manifest something. And I'm like, okay, what does that look like in my life? Like her prayer, like this is what she hoped for. And I'm like, damn, I really had everything, you know, that I could like need. And if I don't have it, then I have to like search. You know what I mean? So I just start to, I guess, sort of explore that.
I like
And
it.
both internally and externally, and just put it out.
I like it, bro. I like
Yeah.
where you're at with it right now. I think writers have like the tendency to, I feel like the first couple of things are very like outwardly, maybe. I feel like maybe in general it's like observation based, it's like kind of storytelling, but like the more, at least with writers, I feel like it tends to go inward.
Yeah.
And then that's, you know, the internal plane is potentially even more vast than like what's on the outside,
Word.
right? So I think this like focused approach to above all, like that's a sound concept.
Oh, bro, I'm
I like that.
excited. Like
Yeah.
I'm like excited because again, it's like it's not like I remember I released a project with Thelonious Martin where I was rapping. People were like, bro, and I'm like, yo, you guys really like this? And it was still me finding my sound, but I remember people just not realizing like I could rap really well because I've tried so much like experimenting to make like songs and try to be like, I guess, as accessible as possible. And just really just teetering in different like pots, like figuring out what it is that, what's the sound that I'm running with. But it's funny because after all of that, it was like I was able to pick up certain things, and now I'm coming back to like home base because it's like my pen is like my strongest, and also like production. But like, you know, I'm like really
Yeah.
excited for people to actually hear
Yeah,
the things that
yeah.
I'm like saying.
I think it's gonna be well received. I think we're in a time where there's not a lot of originality like that's being broadcasted. There's a lot of dope rappers, a lot of dope artists like who are coming up with their own sound. They got their own approach, but saturated.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, bro. I appreciate that, man. I'm confident with this.
absolutely.
It's like I got this like card in my pocket, and bro, if I execute everything like I told everyone in the show, I'm like, this thing is just gonna multiply, bro.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna multiply. Like my heart is in the right place. I took a risk. I've been like freelancing, and like I haven't been without. It's like I'm like coasting, bro.
Yeah.
And that feels great because it's like trying something different. Like I used to like work a gig and just always feel like, damn, I'm not like, it was like hindering me, bro, like from reaching my full potential. And I always knew who it was that I wanted to be and where I wanted to be. And I think, I mean, especially through the pandemic, that gave me time to like sit down and really be like selfish and like, do that internal work that I've always craved, but just never had the time to like do because I'm always giving so much of myself.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm definitely looking forward to the outcome. It's nice to see, people really put time into their craft. That time and time again shows to be like the most important element to like a quality, I guess, piece of art, like or a quality project. Like how much time you put into it. So I can definitely see the passion. I can definitely hear it when you perform it.
Yeah, I'm gonna surprise a lot of people, but then there are gonna be a lot of people that also are like, we were waiting on this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited. I played some songs for my best friend in the car, and she's like, "You made this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. She's like, "This is really good." It's like, yo, when this drops, we got to do a press run. We got to get it here. And I'm like, that's dope.
On
it's
everything.
Like, it's
On
contagious.
everything.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's hard because it's like, that's where my heart is at. And it's cool that like, you put that intention out there. You set your intention. You put that out there, and I promise you, it'll be received, bro.
For sure.
It'll be received. And so,
Man, well, I'm glad you stayed the course.
appreciate you, man.
Hope you stay tapped in. I know you will.
On Spotify, Apple Music, Myquale, that's Myquale. That's my middle name, fun fact. And then you can hit me on social media at Mad Myquale. Shouts to Mad Villain, RIP Doom. It's MADMYQUALE.
Excellent. Bless up, man. Thank you for coming on the show once again, bro.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the things to come.
For sure.
Bless up.